The Summit Grand Hotel towered over the city, a fortress of wealth, privilege, and power. Ava Sinclair, a black self-made billionaire in her late 30s, stepped out of a sleek, black sedan. She had transformed a humble real estate startup into a billion-dollar empire, and her presence, from her designer suit to her unflinching gaze, radiated strength. But as her heels clicked against the sidewalk, a familiar chill settled over her. Glances of quiet disdain, dismissive murmurs, and the scrutinizing eyes of the hotel staff lingered on her, betraying silent prejudice. Nina Blake, her assistant, noticed it too and leaned closer. They really don't know who they're staring at. Ava squared her shoulders, her voice steely. No. All they see is my skin. Before we dive into this story, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay updated with our latest stories. Now let's get started. Ava and Nina stepped into the grand lobby of the Summit Grand, a space that seemed to exude elegance from every corner. High ceilings arched above them, chandeliers glittered in muted gold, and a polished marble floor gleamed under the soft lights. But within seconds, Ava felt the chill of unspoken judgment cutting through the opulence. Heads turned. Staff members whispered, and the glances that followed her were filled with an unmistakable edge of disdain. As they moved toward the front desk, a young man standing at the entrance suddenly stepped in front of them, a strained smile on his face. "Excuse me, ma'am," he said, gesturing toward a side entrance. "We usually direct guests to our private entrance over here." Ava's eyes hardened. This side entrance wasn't for VIP guests like herself. It was an attempt to quietly usher her out of sight, away from the grandeur reserved for their more prestigious guests. "We have a reservation," Ava replied, her voice steady. "Under Sinclair." The young man hesitated, clearly taken aback by her confidence. But as he moved aside, Ava felt the heat of the stares around her. People here couldn't fathom that a black woman could be anything more than an outsider looking in, a visitor to their world of luxury, not someone who belonged. At the front desk, a sharply dressed receptionist looked up and offered a polite but thin-lipped smile. "Good afternoon," she said, her eyes flicking over Ava's face with a flicker of skepticism. "How may I assist you?" "We have a reservation under Sinclair," Nina said firmly, sensing Ava's growing tension and stepping forward with confidence. The receptionist's fingers moved over the keyboard, but she didn't rush. Her demeanor was all professionalism on the surface, but there was a coolness in her tone, an underlying hint of dismissal that Ava couldn't ignore. After a few moments, the receptionist paused, her eyebrows knitting together in mock confusion. "I'm sorry," she said slowly, as if savoring the words. "I'm not seeing a reservation under that name." Ava's heart sank, though her expression remained impassive. She had seen this before, the subtle maneuvers that people used to remind her she didn't belong. This error had a familiar sting. "Could you please check again?" Nina asked, her tone calm but tinged with irritation. "The reservation was confirmed in advance, and Ms. Sinclair is a VIP guest." The receptionist offered a stiff smile. "I'll call the manager," she said, her gaze darting to Ava with a look that bordered on pity, as if saying, "You don't really belong here." She picked up the phone, turning away slightly and lowering her voice, as though hiding some damning secret. Moments later, the hotel manager appeared, a tall, silver-haired man named Edward Shaw, whose suit seemed tailored to match the stoic, almost arrogant look on his face. He extended a hand to Ava, his smile forced. "Good afternoon," he greeted, his tone courteous but with an undercurrent that suggested this encounter was more of a formality than a welcome. "I understand there's been some confusion with your reservation?" His gaze flicked over Ava, and she saw it there, that quick, measuring glance that told her he had already decided she didn't belong. "Yes," Ava said, her voice steady but cold. "We confirmed this booking weeks ago." Shaw offered a tight smile. "Unfortunately, it seems there was an oversight. Our suites are fully booked, I'm afraid. I apologize for any inconvenience." Nina's eyes flashed with indignation. "We confirmed this reservation personally. There's no reason it shouldn't be available." But Shaw's expression remained neutral, unaffected by her words. I understand, he replied, though his tone said otherwise. But I'm afraid there's nothing more we can do at the moment. Ava felt the familiar sting of rejection, a bitter reminder that her achievements meant nothing to people like Shaw, who saw only the color of her skin. She took a breath, steadying herself. The manager's expression barely masked the satisfaction in his eyes, as if he believed he'd triumphed in some quiet, private way. With a calmness that belied the anger simmering inside her, Ava met Shaw's gaze, her voice calm and resolute. Thank you for your time, Mr. Shaw. We'll make other arrangements. Shaw blinked, taken aback by her poised response. He had likely expected an argument, some show of outrage he could dismiss as a scene. But Ava wasn't about to give him that satisfaction. Turning sharply, she walked toward the exit, head held high, with Nina following close behind. But as they neared the doors, Nina could no longer hold back. This is outrageous, she whispered, her voice shaking with anger. We can't just let them get away with this, Ava. There has to be something we can do, the press, a lawyer, something. Ava stopped, her eyes focused ahead, and took a steadying breath before turning to face her assistant. Nina, I've been fighting this battle my entire life. They want us to make a scene. They want us to look out of place, to confirm their prejudices. She paused, her voice calm but firm. I won't give them that. Nina's anger softened, though the frustration remained. But it's not right, Ava. You've earned everything. You deserve respect. Ava sighed, feeling the weight of countless moments like this pressing down on her. I know. And that's exactly why I won't let them define me. A flicker of determination flashed in her eyes. I'm not done here, Nina. Not yet. As they walked away, Ava felt something shift within her. She had spent her life breaking down barriers, refusing to let anyone tell her where she could or couldn't belong. This moment would be no different. If they wouldn't accept her as a guest, she'd return as something else entirely. Later that evening, Ava sat in a modest hotel across town, the contrast between this quiet room and the grand halls of Summit Grand stark in her mind. The sting of their rejection lingered, but Ava's thoughts moved past the hurt, focusing instead on the opportunity that this insult had created. Sipping her coffee, she looked out at the city skyline, her mind already piecing together a plan. She had spent years building her empire from nothing, turning skepticism into respect, prejudice into undeniable proof of her worth. Summit Grand might have dismissed her today, but they had no idea who they were dealing with. Nina, who had been pacing with frustration, stopped as Ava's eyes narrowed with intent. You're planning something, aren't you? She asked, her voice a mixture of curiosity and excitement. Ava smiled, the spark of determination igniting within her. If they won't have me as a guest, Nina, then I'll return as their owner. Nina's eyes widened, a grin spreading across her face. You're serious? Completely. Summit Grand needs new leadership, Ava replied, her tone steely. And I'm going to give it to them. With that, Ava turned to her laptop, the beginnings of her plan already taking shape. The morning light filtered through Ava's hotel window as she sat before her laptop, a dozen financial reports of the Summit Grand displayed on the screen. To anyone passing by, the summit appeared untouchable, a fortress of old-world luxury, elegance, and wealth. But to Ava, the numbers told a different story. She had transformed small real estate investments into a billion-dollar empire by recognizing weaknesses others missed. And here, under the polished facade of Summit Grand, she saw cracks. The hotel, revered for its opulence, had been silently struggling. Financial strain had forced management to make cuts that undermined the very luxury their brand boasted. Ava knew that while Summit appeared invincible, it was anything but, and that was precisely where her opportunity lay. Nina entered the room, carrying coffee, and looked at the papers and files spread across every surface. Up all night? She asked, eyebrows raised. Ava took a sip of coffee, her eyes never leaving the screen. Summit Grand is far weaker than they let on, Nina. They've been losing money for years, relying on the illusion of exclusivity while cutting corners to keep up appearances. She leaned forward, eyes focused. Their reputation is all they have left, and if I'm correct, that's about to change. Nina watched her with admiration. So, what's the plan? Ava leaned back, exhaling thoughtfully. I'll approach their investors quietly, through intermediaries. We'll offer them a substantial deal, something they'd struggle to resist. But we're going to make sure my identity stays under wraps until the ink is dry. Her tone was calm, controlled, but beneath it was a fire. Ava wasn't just buying a property, she was reclaiming a piece of dignity that Summit Grand had tried to take from her. In the days that followed, Ava's plan took shape. She assembled a team of trusted advisors, professionals with experience in luxury takeovers, finance, and property management. Together, they examined every aspect of Summit Grand's financial records, peeling back the layers to reveal a business just one bad quarter away from serious trouble. Ava's instincts were right. The hotel's investors had been masking growing debt and hidden liabilities. The next step was to reach out to the hotel's investors. Ava's team, operating through back channels, made discreet contact, floating an offer that was both generous and time-sensitive. The message was clear. This was a rare opportunity to offload an asset that was quietly becoming a liability. It was a play of both precision and pressure, and Ava knew it would work, especially if they believed it was their idea to sell. Word soon began to spread among Summit Grand's stakeholders. In boardrooms and quiet meetings, investors whispered about this anonymous buyer, willing to pay a premium for a property that was secretly slipping into red ink. The offer was bold, backed by substantial financial strength, and kept meticulously veiled in mystery. The board members, each more anxious than the next, couldn't afford to let this opportunity slip away. As the negotiations progressed, Nina watched with fascination as Ava orchestrated every move with surgical precision. "You're really doing this, Ava," she murmured one evening as they pored over the final proposal. Ava looked up, her gaze unwavering. "This is more than just business, Nina. They tried to deny me, someone who has fought for every ounce of success, a place at their table. Well, I'm not just taking a seat. I'm buying the table." Her voice was calm but laced with a fierce resolve. She was ready to take back the power they had so casually tried to deny her. With each passing day, Ava's plan unfolded seamlessly. Her advisors prepared acquisition contracts, examined every clause, ensuring that once Ava took control, she would have complete authority over Summit Grand. She wasn't just acquiring a property, she was taking control of a legacy, one that she intended to rebuild from the ground up. But not everyone within Summit was on board with the changes Ava planned to bring. As word of her intentions leaked, resistance emerged. Some staff members, especially long-time employees like Edward Shaw, the hotel manager who had personally turned her away, were uneasy. Shaw, with his deeply ingrained views and rigid sense of exclusivity, became increasingly wary of the mystery buyer who seemed so intent on taking over his domain. To him, the idea of new leadership, especially leadership he couldn't control, was a threat. Meanwhile, Ava remained focused, aware of the resistance but undeterred. Her resolve only grew stronger as she prepared for the final negotiations. She was about to take ownership of a place that had treated her as an outsider, and she intended to turn it into a space where everyone would feel welcome. One evening, as Ava and Nina finalized the last details of the deal, Nina couldn't help but shake her head in amazement. "Summit Grand won't know what hit them," she whispered. Ava's expression softened, but her eyes remained resolute. "They wanted exclusivity. Well, I'll give them exclusivity, but not on their terms. I'm redefining what it means to belong." As the closing date approached, Ava felt the weight of this moment pressing on her. This wasn't just another business acquisition. It was a statement, a reminder to every board member, every manager, every gatekeeper who had ever told her, no, based on prejudice. The Summit Grand's fate was now in her hands, and she would use that power to rewrite its legacy. Finally, the day of the final negotiation arrived. Ava and her team entered a quiet, private meeting room, facing the hotel's board members. There was an air of curiosity and tension as they looked at this poised, powerful woman, the same woman they had tried to keep out. But Ava was unmoved by their scrutiny. She had already won. One by one, the investors reviewed the final documents, glancing at each other in silent approval. When the last signature was placed, Ava felt a surge of triumph, not for the power or property she'd gained, but for the barrier she had broken down. The Summit Grand, with all its grandeur and history, was now under the ownership of a woman they had once dismissed, a woman who was about to show them, and the world, what true success looked like. Ava's legacy was no longer just her empire. It was a symbol, a new beginning for everyone who had been told they didn't belong. Nina leaned over, her voice a mix of pride and disbelief. "They'll never forget this, Ava. None of them will." Ava's lips curved into a small smile as she stood, looking over the newly signed contracts. "Good. Because I didn't do this for them, Nina. I did this for everyone they've turned away. And for everyone who deserves a place here." With that, she took one last look around the room, her victory secured. Ava Sinclair had not only taken her place, she had changed what it meant to belong. The day had come. Ava entered the polished boardroom of Summit Grand, her footsteps echoing against the marble floors. Across the room sat the hotel's board members and stakeholders, a collection of wealthy investors who had built and preserved Summit's legacy of exclusivity and privilege. Today, however, they faced a change they had never anticipated. Ava took her seat at the head of the table, her gaze steady as she surveyed the faces before her. She was calm, collected, exuding a quiet power that made even the most seasoned board members shift uneasily in their chairs. The irony of this moment was lost on none of them. Here sat a black woman, poised to take control of the very establishment that had once dismissed her as unworthy. One of the lead investors, Charles Kincaid, cleared his throat, glancing at the contract in front of him. "Ms. Sinclair," he began, his voice carefully measured, "I must say, your offer was unexpected. Generous even. We had reservations at first, but after reviewing everything, I believe we're ready to proceed." His voice hinted at lingering doubts, as if he still couldn't fully accept the reality before him. Ava gave a polite nod, maintaining her composure. "I'm pleased to hear that, Mr. Kincaid. I believe in making investments that benefit both parties." Her tone was courteous, but there was an unyielding edge to it, a reminder that she was in control. Another board member leaned forward, curiosity flickering in his eyes. "If I may ask, Ms. Sinclair, why Summit Grand? There are other properties, perhaps even more profitable ventures." His question held an undertone of disbelief, as though he couldn't fathom why someone like her would be interested in their revered institution. Ava folded her hands, meeting his gaze directly. "Summit Grand represents something personal to me," she replied, her voice steady. "It's not just about profitability. It's about legacy, the kind of legacy that should reflect inclusion and progress, not exclusion." The room fell silent, her words hanging in the air, challenging each of them to confront the truth. They shifted uncomfortably, understanding now that this was more than a mere business transaction. This was about reshaping the future of Summit Grand itself. With a final glance around the table, Ava took the pen and signed her name, sealing the deal that would redefine the very identity of Summit Grand. The investors exchanged looks, some of resignation, others of reluctant respect. Ava Sinclair had not only outmaneuvered them, but had transformed their legacy in a way they had never expected. Standing up, she extended her hand to Kincaid, who shook it with a strained smile. "Thank you for this opportunity," she said, her voice carrying a quiet strength. "I look forward to leading Summit Grand into its next chapter." As she left the boardroom, Ava felt the weight of victory settle over her. She hadn't just bought a hotel, she had reclaimed a space that had once denied her, rewriting its purpose with a vision rooted in dignity, equality, and strength. The following morning, Ava stood in front of Summit Grand once more. But this time, everything was different. She wasn't here as an outsider, questioning whether she belonged. Today, she returned as the rightful owner, holding the power that no one could take away. By her side, Nina held back a smile, her eyes gleaming with anticipation. Are you ready for this? Ava took a breath, her gaze steady as she surveyed the building before her. I've been ready my whole life, she replied, a quiet determination in her voice. Together, they stepped through the grand entrance. Inside, the opulence of Summit Grand was unchanged, but today it felt different, as if the very walls recognized the shift in power. As Ava walked through the lobby, whispers began to spread. Staff members glanced at each other, confused murmurs rippling as they recognized the woman who had once been turned away. Behind the reception desk, a familiar face appeared, the receptionist who had initially dismissed her. Her eyes widened as Ava approached, and she visibly struggled to maintain her composure. "Good morning," Ava greeted, her voice calm yet resolute. The receptionist's gaze darted nervously as she offered a hesitant smile. Good morning. How may I assist you today, ma'am?" Her tone was polite, but a tremor in her voice betrayed her discomfort. Ava met her gaze, unflinching. "I'm not here for a reservation," she said smoothly. "I'm here as the new owner of Summit Grand." The receptionist's face strained of color as she absorbed Ava's words. She fumbled for a response, her hand shaking slightly as she adjusted her collar. I wasn't aware," she stammered, casting a desperate look around as though hoping someone else would intervene. Ava's expression remained composed, yet there was a quiet intensity in her gaze. "Consider this your introduction," she said, her tone measured but unyielding. "Please inform the rest of the staff. Things are about to change around here." Just then, Edward Shaw, the manager who had personally denied her the day she arrived, approached, his face a mask of forced cordiality. But Ava could see the flicker of shock in his eyes as he processed her words. "Miss Sinclair," he began, his voice tight. "Welcome back to Summit Grand. I wasn't expecting to see you again." Ava nodded, her smile polite yet resolute. "Well, Mr. Shaw, I intend to be very involved. As you may have heard, Summit Grand has new leadership. And that means new values. We'll be embracing inclusivity, respect, and an environment that welcomes everyone, not just a select few." Shaw's face flushed, his discomfort palpable as he struggled to maintain his composure. He opened his mouth as though to object, but quickly closed it, realizing the futility. The power dynamics had shifted entirely, and he was standing before the very woman he had tried to dismiss. "Of course, Ms. Sinclair," he replied, swallowing his pride. "We'll adjust accordingly." Ava's gaze held his for a moment longer before she nodded. "Good. I trust you'll make sure the transition is smooth. Summit Grand will no longer be a place that turns people away based on superficial judgments. It's time this hotel became a true symbol of excellence, for everyone." As she moved through the lobby, heads turned, and whispers grew louder. The news spread quickly. Summit Grand, the exclusive fortress of luxury, was now in the hands of someone who had been denied a place there. Someone who would no longer tolerate exclusion. Nina watched her, pride evident in her eyes. "You did it, Ava," she whispered as they walked toward the elevators. "You're not just the owner, you're changing everything this place stands for." Ava's lips curved into a small but determined smile. "I didn't come here just to own it, Nina. I came to redefine it." As they stepped into the elevator, Ava felt a profound sense of fulfillment, not just for what she had achieved, but for the message she was leaving behind. Summit Grand would no longer be a sanctuary of exclusion. Under her leadership, it would become a beacon of progress, a place where everyone, regardless of their background, would be treated with respect and dignity. The weeks following Ava's takeover were a whirlwind of transformation at Summit Grand. She wasted no time in setting the groundwork for change. Her first order of business, eliminating the invisible barriers that had kept people out. Ava implemented policies to ensure that all guests, regardless of race, background, or appearance, would receive the same level of respect and service. For her, this was more than policy, it was a promise. She organized a mandatory training for all employees, focusing on inclusivity, diversity, and respect. Ava brought in experts on racial sensitivity and customer service, emphasizing that Summit Grand would no longer tolerate exclusionary practices or implicit biases. During one of these sessions, Ava stood at the front, speaking directly to the staff. This hotel has a legacy, but that legacy needs to evolve. Summit Grand will no longer be a place that judges people based on appearances or status. We're building something better, a place that welcomes everyone with open arms. Some of the longtime employees shifted uncomfortably, especially those who had been there for years and had become accustomed to certain standards. Edward Shaw, the manager who had denied Ava a room, listened with a stoic expression, though she could sense his unease. But Ava remained undeterred. She knew change was never easy, especially for those who had built their identity around exclusivity. In addition to retraining, Ava also made changes to the leadership structure, promoting individuals who valued diversity and inclusivity. She hired staff from a variety of backgrounds, ensuring that the team at Summit Grand truly represented the diverse world outside its walls. This was not just about appearances. It was about creating an environment where people from all walks of life felt seen and respected. Nina, who had been by Ava's side throughout, couldn't hide her pride as she watched these changes unfold. You're not just changing a hotel, Ava. You're changing lives. Ava smiled, though her expression was thoughtful. That's the goal, Nina. Summit Grand was built to be a symbol of exclusivity, but we're turning it into a beacon of progress. As the weeks went by, the effects of Ava's reforms became increasingly visible. Guests from all backgrounds filled the lobby, dining areas, and suites, families, business travelers, young couples. There was no more discomfort, no silent judgment, just a warm, welcoming atmosphere that made people feel like they truly belonged. One afternoon, Ava walked through the lobby and saw a young couple, visibly nervous, glancing around as though unsure if they were welcome in such a high-end place. A member of the front desk staff, someone who had been recently hired under Ava's new policies, approached them with a welcoming smile, offering assistance without hesitation. Watching this moment, Ava felt a surge of pride. Nearby, Edward Shaw observed as well, his expression a mixture of resignation and respect. Over time, he had come to understand that this new direction was not a threat to Summit Grand's legacy, but a transformation that elevated it. Ava's vision had not diminished the hotel's prestige, it had redefined it. Ava turned to Nina, her voice soft but filled with conviction. We've made progress, but this is just the beginning. True change is continuous. We have to keep evolving, adapting, until this place represents everything it was once meant to exclude. Nina nodded, understanding the depth of Ava's commitment. Summit Grand has never seen anything like this, and it never will again. Under Ava's leadership, Summit Grand was no longer a fortress of privilege, but a sanctuary of inclusion. And as each day passed, Ava's vision of equality and respect took root, transforming not only the hotel but the lives of everyone who walked through its doors. As the news of Ava's acquisition and her sweeping reforms spread, the public response was immediate and overwhelmingly positive. Guests who once felt intimidated by the exclusivity of Summit Grand now felt welcomed, drawn by the hotel's new values and inclusive atmosphere. Social media buzzed with stories of visitors who praised the warmth and respect they encountered, turning Summit Grand into more than just a luxury destination. It was now a symbol of progress. One story after another flooded in. Families shared experiences of being greeted warmly, regardless of their background. Young professionals posted pictures of their stays, captioned with words like, "Finally belonging," and "No more judgment." The transformation was tangible, and guests from every corner of society took notice. Soon, media outlets began to cover the hotel's remarkable transformation. Headlines hailed Ava Sinclair as a visionary leader who had not only redefined luxury, but had reshaped what it meant to truly welcome people from all walks of life. Articles highlighted the contrast between the hotel's past reputation as an elite, exclusive establishment, and its new identity as a place of dignity and respect for all. For Ava, watching this transformation unfold was deeply fulfilling. She knew that she had not only created a more inclusive space but had planted the seeds for a long-term change. Summit Grand was no longer merely a luxury hotel. It was becoming a beacon of inspiration, proof that even the most exclusive spaces could evolve. One afternoon, Ava sat with Nina in the hotel's newly renovated lounge, a space now open to all guests. As they watched the diverse crowd around them, Nina couldn't hide her smile. "Look at this place, Ava. It's alive. It's welcoming. I don't think Summit Grand has ever seen so many different people, all here together." Ava nodded, her gaze thoughtful as she observed a family laughing in one corner and a young couple admiring the decor nearby. "This is what I envisioned," she replied softly. "A place where everyone can feel like they belong." Even longtime guests who were initially skeptical of the changes began to see the beauty in Ava's vision. They found that the hotel's new culture of respect and openness didn't diminish the luxury experience, it enriched it. The high standards remained, but now they were accompanied by a warmth and hospitality that transcended mere service. As the public response grew, other luxury establishments started taking note. Leaders in the industry reached out to Ava, curious about her methods, interested in learning how they too could integrate diversity and inclusion into their brands without losing prestige. Summit Grand was no longer just a hotel. It was setting a new standard, pioneering a path others were eager to follow. Ava leaned back, a sense of pride filling her as she looked around. Summit Grand had come a long way from the cold fortress of privilege she had first encountered. Under her leadership, it had transformed into a place that wasn't defined by who it kept out, but by how it welcomed others in. Nina raised her glass in a toast, her voice filled with admiration. "To Summit Grand, the new Summit Grand." Ava smiled, clinking her glass. "To change, and to everyone who deserves a place at the table." Under the glowing lights of the lounge, they toasted to a legacy reborn, a legacy built not on exclusion, but on belonging. With Summit Grand transformed into a beacon of inclusivity, Ava knew it was time to expand the hotel's impact beyond its walls. Her vision wasn't just about reshaping one space. It was about building bridges with the surrounding community. So, she launched the Summit Community Unity Initiative, a program aimed at breaking down barriers and fostering connections between the hotel and its neighbors. The Summit Community Unity Initiative was designed with one clear goal: to bring people together, regardless of their background, and to share the luxury experience with those who might never have imagined stepping foot in a place like Summit Grand. Ava wanted the hotel to represent not only success but also opportunity, community, and a chance for others to see a future they hadn't thought possible. The program offered a series of community events, workshops, and educational tours, inviting local schools, youth organizations, and families to experience Summit Grand up close. Ava and her team organized free tours that showed young people what went on behind the scenes of a luxury hotel, from hospitality management to culinary arts. Through these tours, she aimed to ignite dreams and show them that they too could aspire to work in, or even own, places like Summit Grand. Nina, who had watched Ava's journey from the very beginning, was thrilled as she saw the vision come to life. "Ava, I've never seen anything like this," she said as they watched a group of local students gather in the lobby, eyes wide with excitement as they took in the opulent surroundings. Ava's gaze softened, pride evident in her expression. "I want these kids to know that they belong here. That success isn't limited by their background or where they're from. If they can see themselves in a place like this, it might just change the way they see their future." One memorable day during the program launch, Ava guided a tour for a group of students from a local high school. Among them was a young girl named Lisa, whose quiet fascination reminded Ava of herself when she was young, dreaming of breaking out of her own limitations. As Ava spoke about her journey and the determination it had taken to build her empire, she saw Lisa's eyes light up with hope. As they toured the property, Ava made sure the students saw more than just the glamour of Summit Grand. She introduced them to the hotel's dedicated staff, each of whom shared their personal stories and experiences, making the world of luxury hospitality feel accessible and real. Ava knew that representation mattered, and that by showcasing a diverse team, she was showing these students that they, too, had a place in this industry. After the tour, Lisa approached Ava shyly, her voice barely a whisper. "Ms. Sinclair, do you think someone like me could work in a place like this?" Ava smiled, bending down to meet her gaze. "Lisa, you don't just have to work here. One day, you could own a place like this. Don't ever let anyone tell you otherwise." That moment was everything Ava had hoped for. This wasn't just about running a successful hotel. It was about planting seeds of hope and possibility. The Summit Community Unity Initiative had officially taken root, becoming a living extension of her vision for change. Through this program, Ava didn't just open the doors of Summit Grand, she opened the doors of opportunity, allowing others to walk through and see a future that, until then, had seemed impossible. Ava's vision for Summit Grand extended far beyond its walls. She knew that true change meant investing in the next generation and offering real opportunities for young people from underrepresented backgrounds. So, she launched a partnership program, connecting Summit Grand with local organizations and schools to create internships and mentorships aimed at giving young people hands-on experience in the hospitality industry. Through these partnerships, Ava wanted to do more than just educate. She wanted to open doors. The internship program offered paid positions across departments, from event planning to culinary arts and hotel management. Each intern was paired with a mentor, someone who would guide them, teach them, and most importantly, believe in them. One of the program's first interns was a young man named Eric, who had grown up in a neighborhood where opportunities like this were scarce. Despite his challenges, Eric had a passion for hospitality and a dream of one day managing a hotel. When he arrived at Summit Grand for his first day, he was nervous but determined. Ava made a point to personally welcome Eric and the other interns, addressing them in the hotel's grand lobby. "This is your chance," she told them, her voice filled with encouragement. "When I started out, I didn't have anyone to show me the way. But you do. This industry belongs to you just as much as it belongs to anyone else. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." Eric was paired with Nina, who took him under her wing, showing him the intricacies of hotel operations. He quickly learned the ropes, gaining confidence as he handled tasks he once thought were beyond his reach. The mentorship, the hands-on experience, and the supportive environment transformed his outlook, and soon, he began to see himself as a future leader. As the internship program continued, more young people like Eric joined, each with their own dreams and ambitions. Ava watched proudly as these interns grew, their confidence building with each new skill they mastered. This wasn't just about giving them a job, it was about giving them a future. The internship program became a cornerstone of Ava's legacy at Summit Grand, a tangible commitment to the values of opportunity and inclusivity. She was not only changing the hotel, she was changing lives. With the success of Summit Grand's transformation, Ava's vision began to reach beyond just one hotel. Inspired by the changes she had seen and the lives her initiatives had touched, she set her sights on a greater goal, building a global chain of hotels that reflected the same values of inclusivity, respect, and opportunity. This new vision was more than a business plan. It was a movement. Ava wanted to take the Summit model, a place where everyone was welcome, where success wasn't defined by exclusivity but by inclusion, and bring it to major cities around the world. From New York to London, from Tokyo to Cape Town, her dream was to create a network of hotels that would stand as symbols of progress and belonging. One evening, as she and Nina discussed the expansion over dinner, Nina looked at her, a mix of pride and amazement in her eyes. "Ava, do you realize what this means? You're not just changing Summit Grand. You're changing the entire industry." Ava smiled, a quiet determination in her gaze. "That's the goal, Nina. I want every person, in every city, to feel that there's a place for them. A place where they're welcomed, respected, and valued. This isn't just about hotels. It's about showing people that luxury and inclusion can coexist." The journey ahead would be challenging, she knew. But Ava had built her empire from nothing, and now she was ready to scale it into something that would outlive her, a legacy of change. With each new hotel, she aimed to carry forward the principles of equality and opportunity, creating spaces where everyone felt like they belonged, no matter where they came from. Ava raised her glass, her voice filled with conviction. To the future of Summit. To a world where everyone has a place. Nina clinked her glass, eyes shining. To your legacy, Ava. As they toasted to the future, Ava knew this was only the beginning. The Summit chain would not just be a collection of luxury hotels. It would be a testament to what true leadership and vision could accomplish. And with every new location, Ava's dream of a more inclusive world took one step closer to reality. Months after Ava's transformation of Summit Grand, she knew there was one final step she needed to take to truly heal the hotel's legacy. For decades, Summit had been more than a luxury destination. It had been a fortress of exclusivity, turning away those deemed unfit for its grandeur. Now, under her leadership, it had become a symbol of inclusion. But Ava felt that the true change couldn't be complete without acknowledging the painful past. She wanted to confront this history openly, with the community, to create a foundation of transparency and accountability. With this in mind, Ava organized the Summit Legacy Symposium, an event where the hotel's past would be openly discussed and the new vision celebrated. Invitations were sent to community leaders, activists, historians, past guests, and media outlets. Ava wanted everyone who had been affected by Summit's policies to have a voice in this new era. She knew it wouldn't be easy, but real change rarely was. On the day of the symposium, the grand ballroom was transformed. High ceilings and chandeliers gleamed, but instead of luxury decor, the walls were adorned with photo displays showing Summit's history, from its opening in the early 1900s to present day. Ava wanted attendees to see the full arc of the hotel's existence, the glamour, the exclusivity, and the discrimination that had long been intertwined. As guests began to fill the room, Ava took her place at the front, feeling a mix of anticipation and solemnity. She knew that today was not about celebrating her success, but about reconciling with the past to pave the way for a more inclusive future. As the crowd settled, she stepped up to the podium, pausing to let the significance of the moment sink in. "Good afternoon, everyone," she began, her voice resonant yet warm. "Thank you for being here today. Today's symposium is not just an event, it's a conversation, a moment of reflection. Summit Grand has a legacy, and it's one we need to acknowledge honestly." She paused, scanning the room, her gaze meeting those of community leaders, former guests, and longtime staff. Each face seemed to hold a different story, but all were connected by this place. For too many years, this hotel was a symbol of exclusion. Only a select few were welcomed through these doors, while others were turned away, not because of who they were, but because of judgments about their backgrounds, their skin color, or their social status. A murmur ran through the audience as Ava continued, her tone steady. "We cannot undo the past, but we can learn from it. When I took over Summit Grand, I knew that it had to be more than just a business. It had to be a place of transformation, of healing, of unity." Throughout the room, Ava could see the impact of her words. People nodded in agreement, some even dabbing at their eyes. She continued, her voice unwavering but filled with emotion. "This symposium isn't just about changing policies or rewriting rules. It's about acknowledging the scars that discrimination leaves behind, scars that take time, courage, and commitment to heal." As Ava finished her opening remarks, she invited several guest speakers to share their perspectives. Historians presented on the broader history of segregation in the hospitality industry, showing how policies like Summit's had once been widespread, affecting countless people. They explained how hotels had, for years, turned away black families, indigenous travelers, and anyone deemed unfit for high society, practices that had long-lasting impacts on generations. The room was silent as a former guest, an elderly man named Mr. Thompson, took the stage. He shared his own story of visiting Summit Grand as a young man, dressed in his best suit, only to be told he couldn't stay. "I had saved up for months to be here," he said, his voice breaking slightly. "I thought if I looked the part, I'd be welcomed. But when I was turned away, I realized that no amount of effort could change how they saw me." The audience listened intently, many visibly moved. Ava watched Mr. Thompson, feeling the weight of his story in her heart. She stepped up, taking his hand, and whispered, "Thank you for sharing this with us." He nodded, his eyes filled with a quiet gratitude, and returned to his seat. As the day went on, other speakers took the stage, including community leaders and local activists. They shared stories of resilience, hope, and their visions for a future where places like Summit Grand could truly be symbols of inclusivity. One activist spoke passionately about the importance of representation, urging businesses to go beyond symbolic gestures and commit to real, sustained change. One particularly powerful moment came when a young woman from a local nonprofit, who had benefited from Ava's internship program, spoke about what the new Summit Grand meant to her. "Before this place opened its doors to me, I never thought I'd belong in a space like this. I thought luxury was something for other people," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. "But now, I know that belonging isn't about where you come from, it's about who you are and what you bring to the table." Her words brought the audience to their feet, applause echoing through the ballroom. Ava felt a surge of pride and humility as she listened. This was the impact she had hoped for, a place where everyone felt seen and valued. As the symposium drew to a close, Ava took the stage one last time, a look of peace and determination on her face. "Today, we've done something powerful. We've faced the truth together. And we've set a new course for Summit Grand, a course that values every individual and recognizes that true luxury is about respect, dignity, and unity." The audience erupted into applause as Ava stepped down, many guests approaching her with words of thanks and support. Ava embraced each interaction, feeling the weight of her journey but also the immense reward of seeing her vision come to life. She had not only redefined what Summit Grand stood for but had also set an example for the entire industry. As the last guests filed out, Nina approached, her face filled with admiration. "Ava, you've done something extraordinary here. Today was more than just a symposium. It was a turning point." Ava nodded, her voice filled with quiet conviction. "This is just the beginning, Nina. Summit Grand's legacy isn't in the past anymore, it's in the future we're building. A future where everyone, no matter who they are, knows they belong." With that, Ava left the ballroom, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. She had confronted the past head-on and laid the foundation for a new era at Summit Grand, one defined not by exclusion, but by unity and respect. With Summit Grand's transformation well underway, Ava knew that her vision had to reach beyond the present moment. To build a lasting legacy, she needed to equip the next generation with the tools and awareness to carry her mission forward. Determined to make a deeper impact, Ava established the Summit Leadership and Awareness Program, a training initiative aimed at educating young people on inclusivity, leadership, and the value of diversity in the workplace. The program offered internships, mentorships, and workshops that went beyond the basics of hospitality. Ava wanted these sessions to challenge stereotypes, promote understanding, and cultivate empathy, qualities she believed were crucial for true leadership. "We're not just teaching them how to run a hotel," she told her team. "We're teaching them how to reshape an industry." The first group of participants included young people from a wide range of backgrounds, many of whom had never imagined working in a luxury setting. Ava knew from experience that confidence could be built, and for some of these students, just being at Summit Grand, seeing others who looked like them in leadership roles, was transformative. One of Ava's first ments, a young woman named Sarah, had grown up in a community where opportunities in high-end industries seemed unattainable. On her first day at the program, Sarah had expressed doubt. "I don't know if I belong here," she admitted softly to Ava. Ava smiled, recognizing herself in Sarah's uncertainty. "I used to feel that way too," she replied. "But remember, success isn't about where you come from, it's about where you're going. You belong here as much as anyone else." Over the weeks, Ava held workshops on topics like unconscious bias, the power of diversity, and the importance of leading with empathy. She invited guest speakers from different industries who had experienced their own struggles and triumphs. Each session encouraged the students to ask questions, to challenge preconceptions, and to envision their own futures as leaders. In one memorable workshop, Ava brought in a panel of leaders who had overcome adversity to reach positions of influence. They shared stories of resilience and the power of staying true to one's values. One panelist, a black woman who had become a top executive in a Fortune 500 company, spoke about the importance of lifting as you climb. Her words struck a chord with the students, reminding them that leadership wasn't just about personal success, but about helping others rise too. Sarah, inspired by the session, approached Ava afterward. "Hearing those stories, it makes me feel like maybe I can do this," she said, her voice filled with newfound confidence. Ava placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You absolutely can, Sarah. And one day, you'll be the one inspiring others. That's what this program is about. It's not just about becoming a leader, but about empowering others to lead too." The program also included practical training, with each participant rotating through different departments in the hotel, from front desk to guest services, event planning, and even management. Ava wanted them to see every side of the business, to understand the dedication it took to create a truly inclusive environment. Each role offered a new perspective, challenging them to adapt and grow. Nina, who oversaw much of the day-to-day mentoring, was amazed at the transformation she saw in the participants. "Ava, you're not just training future leaders," she said one day, watching as the students enthusiastically engaged in a discussion on ethical leadership. "You're changing how they see themselves. They're realizing they can be more than they ever thought possible." Ava nodded, a warm smile spreading across her face. "That's the goal, Nina. We're giving them more than skills, we're giving them belief. Belief that they can shape the world around them." The impact of the program quickly spread beyond the hotel. Word of Summit Grand's leadership and awareness program reached other luxury brands, many of whom began to take note of Ava's progressive approach. She received inquiries from industry leaders who wanted to know more about her training model, curious to understand how they too could create a culture of inclusion and empowerment. For Ava, this recognition was secondary. Her primary goal was to instill in these young people the values that she had fought for. She wanted them to leave Summit Grand not only with technical skills but with a sense of purpose, a vision of what they could accomplish, and the courage to challenge inequity wherever they encountered it. As the first cohort of graduates completed the program, Ava hosted a small ceremony in their honor. She watched with pride as each young participant accepted their certificate, their faces glowing with pride and confidence. In her closing remarks, she reminded them that their journey was only beginning. "You are now part of a legacy," Ava said, her voice filled with warmth and hope. "A legacy of resilience, of courage, and of vision. Take what you've learned here, and carry it with you into everything you do. Remember that leadership is about more than power, it's about making space for others and lifting them up. You have the power to change lives, to change industries, and I can't wait to see where you go." The room erupted in applause, and as Ava looked out at the young faces before her, she felt a profound sense of fulfillment. Her vision was no longer just a dream, it was a movement, one that would continue to grow and inspire long after she was gone. Through this program, Ava knew she was building a legacy that would not only transform Summit Grand but would ripple out into the world, empowering a new generation of leaders committed to inclusivity, respect, and progress. With the success of Summit Grand's transformation, Ava's vision only grew bolder. She saw the impact her values of inclusivity and respect had on the hotel's culture, guests, and employees. This impact, she believed, was too powerful to be confined to a single hotel. So, Ava began to expand her dream into something even greater, building a global chain of hotels that embraced the principles Summit Grand now stood for. Her ambition was clear. She wanted to create luxury spaces around the world where everyone, regardless of race, background, or status, felt they belonged. Each hotel would carry Summit's ethos, standing as a testament to Ava's commitment to inclusivity, dignity, and the idea that luxury could, and should, be accessible to all. From bustling metropolises to serene coastal escapes, Ava envisioned a network of hotels that would redefine the standards of the industry. To make this dream a reality, Ava began by establishing strategic partnerships in key cities across the globe. She handpicked locations that represented diverse cultures and vibrant histories, places like Paris, Tokyo, Cape Town, and Rio de Janeiro. In each location, she sought out local investors and community leaders who shared her vision. She wanted each new Summit hotel to feel rooted in its community, not just another luxury chain imposing its own values. Her goal was to build hotels that would reflect the spirit of each location, while upholding the principles of inclusivity and respect. Ava knew, however, that this expansion would require more than just vision. It would require a dedicated team of leaders who understood her values and were committed to carrying them forward. She began a rigorous selection process, interviewing dozens of potential candidates to lead each new property. Many of these leaders came from non-traditional backgrounds. Some had started in entry-level positions, others were from underrepresented communities. Ava wanted people who didn't just understand the world of luxury but who understood the power of inclusion. One of her first hires was Mei Tanaka, a Japanese woman who had risen through the ranks in hospitality, and who had first-hand experience of the barriers people faced in the industry. When Mei heard about Ava's vision, she was immediately inspired. "I've always dreamed of a place where people feel they belong the moment they walk in the door," Mei told Ava during her interview. "Not because they fit some predefined image, but because they're respected for who they are." Ava smiled, recognizing a kindred spirit in Mei. "That's exactly what we're building here, Mei. Welcome to Summit." As the new Summit locations took shape, Ava remained deeply involved in every detail. She wanted each hotel to offer not only luxury but a true sense of belonging. She worked closely with designers and architects to ensure that each space was welcoming, inclusive, and reflective of its cultural context. Every decision, from the artwork in the lobbies to the hiring practices of each hotel, was made with her mission in mind. In Paris, she collaborated with local artists to create murals celebrating the city's diversity. In Cape Town, she worked with indigenous artisans to bring cultural authenticity to the hotel's decor. In Tokyo, she partnered with local nonprofits to provide internships for young people from marginalized communities, ensuring that the opportunities Summit provided would benefit the local youth as well. But Ava's vision didn't stop at the operational level. She knew that to build a lasting legacy, she needed to plan for the future leadership of Summit. She wanted the chain to thrive long after she was gone, led by people who understood and respected its founding principles. With this in mind, she began crafting a plan for succession and mentorship within her company. Ava believed in preparing the next generation, empowering them to continue her mission. She launched the Summit Legacy Fellowship, a program designed to identify and nurture future leaders from within the company. The fellowship offered a year-long intensive training program in luxury hospitality management, ethics, and inclusivity. Fellows were given the opportunity to shadow Ava herself, learning the intricacies of her leadership style and understanding the philosophy that drove her decisions. The fellowship quickly attracted ambitious, idealistic young professionals eager to be part of Ava's vision. One of these fellows was Marcus Hill, a young manager from the original Summit Grand, who had started as an intern in Ava's early mentorship program. Marcus had seen firsthand the transformation of Summit and felt deeply connected to Ava's mission. "I want to be part of a world where people aren't judged by where they come from or what they look like," he told Ava during his fellowship interview. "I want to carry forward what you've started here." Ava looked at him with pride, seeing in Marcus the embodiment of her legacy. "Then let's make sure you have everything you need to do that," she replied. As the fellowship program grew, Ava watched with pride as each new fellow completed the training, stepping into roles at Summit properties around the world. She knew that these individuals would be the ones to carry her vision into the future, to ensure that the values of inclusivity and respect remained at the heart of every Summit hotel. As the new Summit locations opened and began to flourish, Ava's chain of hotels gained a global reputation for their progressive values and unparalleled service. Industry leaders took note, inspired by how Ava had turned the concept of luxury on its head. Competitors began to adopt similar practices, implementing diversity and inclusivity initiatives in their own brands. Ava had not only built a successful hotel chain but had sparked a movement within the industry. One evening, as she stood on the balcony of the newly opened Summit Rio, looking out over the vibrant city below, Nina joined her, holding a glass of champagne. "You've built something incredible, Ava," Nina said, her voice filled with admiration. "Your legacy isn't just these buildings, it's in the lives you've changed, the minds you've opened." Ava smiled, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. "That's the goal, Nina. These hotels, this chain, they're just the beginning. I wanted to build a world where everyone feels welcome, where luxury doesn't come with judgment. And with each new location, we're one step closer to that world." They raised their glasses, toasting to a future where Ava's legacy would continue to inspire and uplift, transcending generations and borders. The Summit chain had become more than a series of hotels. It was a testament to the power of vision, courage, and the belief that everyone, no matter who they are, deserves a place where they feel they belong. As Ava looked out over the city, she felt a profound sense of peace, knowing that she had built something that would last long beyond her years, a true legacy of unity and respect. The evening of the grand celebration had arrived. It was the official launch of Summit's global chain, marking the opening of multiple locations around the world. Ava stood at the entrance of the original Summit Grand, watching as guests from across the globe gathered to celebrate this monumental occasion. From longtime supporters to industry leaders, and even many of the young people who had been part of her mentorship programs, everyone was there, united by Ava's vision of inclusivity. The ballroom sparkled with soft lighting, floral arrangements, and elegant decor, each detail reflecting Ava's commitment to creating a space of warmth and openness. Photos from Summit locations worldwide adorned the walls, showcasing the diversity of people, places, and stories that had come together to create this movement. Every guest received a program booklet titled, "A Legacy of Belonging," which captured the journey of Summit Grand, from a single hotel to an international beacon of progress and unity. As the evening unfolded, Ava took the stage to address the crowd, a sense of fulfillment radiating from her. She paused, scanning the faces before her, all of whom had contributed to this legacy in some way. Her voice was calm but filled with gratitude. "Thank you all for being here tonight," she began, her words resonating in the quiet of the room. "Tonight, we celebrate more than just the opening of new hotels. We celebrate a new standard, a belief that true luxury is not defined by exclusion but by inclusion, by respect, and by creating a place where everyone feels they belong." Applause filled the room, a wave of shared pride. Ava continued, her gaze steady, her tone unwavering. "When I began this journey, I had no idea where it would lead. I only knew that change was possible, that we could build a world where success and dignity coexist. Summit Grand was my beginning, but together, we've made it so much more. We've built a legacy." As Ava stepped down, Nina joined her, eyes glistening with emotion. "You did it, Ava. You really did it." Ava smiled, embracing her friend. "We did it, Nina. Every single person here played a part." The celebration continued with speeches from the new leaders of Summit locations worldwide. Mei Tanaka, the manager of Summit Tokyo, spoke about the impact Ava's vision had on her city. Marcus Hill, now a lead manager at Summit New York, shared how the mentorship program had changed his life and how he was now dedicated to empowering others. Later in the evening, Ava stood quietly by a window, looking out at the city lights below. She felt an overwhelming sense of peace, knowing that her dream was now a reality, one that would live on through every new leader, every hotel, and every guest who walked through Summit's doors. At the end of the night, Ava raised a final toast to her guests. "To all of you, thank you for believing in this vision. Thank you for helping us build a future where everyone has a place." As the crowd raised their glasses, a deep sense of unity filled the room. It was more than just a celebration. It was a promise to keep building, to keep evolving, and to keep welcoming everyone with open arms. The night drew to a close, but the impact of Ava's journey was just beginning to ripple out into the world. Her story, her vision, and her unwavering belief in the power of unity would continue to inspire many. If Ava's journey has inspired you, join us in spreading this message of inclusivity. Subscribe to our channel for more stories of resilience, vision, and change. Together, let's build a world where everyone belongs. And with that, the legacy of Ava Sinclair and Summit Grand lives on, not just in buildings, but in hearts, minds, and stories shared by all who believe in a brighter, more inclusive world.